videos for you. Hi, my name is Michael Gibbs and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Architects, and we're an organization dedicated towards building high-performance cloud computing careers. I've been working in technology for over 25 years, and I've been coaching and mentoring others for well over 2 decades. Today we're going to discuss cloud architects, solution architects, and enterprise architects, but we'll also touch the cloud engineer, and I'll tell you why. There's just so much confusion in the various types of cloud computing roles, especially confusion between cloud architects and cloud engineers, but also between the cloud architect and the solution architect. And now we've got this other type of architect for which I worked as a long time, which is an enterprise architect, and it just causes so much confusion. And if you don't know exactly what's in the role, you're not going to know how to prepare for that role, which is going to make it hard to start your cloud computing career or your cloud architect career or your solutions architect career. So we want to make sure that you have all the tools so you can get the cloud architect or the cloud computing or the cloud engineer or solution architect role of your dreams. So let's begin by discussing the cloud engineer. The cloud engineer is the most deeply technical person of the bunch. The cloud engineer is someone that's going to know all the depth about how an individual service in the cloud works. So for example, if we were talking about AWS S3, that cloud engineer is going to know all about S3 in extreme depth, and they're going to know how to configure everything, all the features and functionality. That's the cloud engineer. It is a deeply technical role, but it's deeply technical on building things, and it's going to be focused on the specific services of the cloud provider. That's what the cloud engineer does. Now, as we move up from this deeply technical role, certain things become more important. Communication skills are going to become more important. Executive presence is going to become more important. Presentation skills are going to become more important. Soft skills and empathy and emotional intelligence. These skills are going to become increasingly important as we start moving up the architect chain. But there's no role that's better or worse. They're just different roles. So the cloud architect, deeply technical, focused on configuring and building certain services of the cloud provider. So now let's talk about the solution architect. The solution architect is a systems designer. So the systems designer is going to meet with clients. It's going to be a customer-facing role. They're going to ask business, legal, and technical and regulatory questions, and they're going to come up and design an architecture. And the architecture that the solution architect is going to design is going to be to optimize the business's performance through technology. Now, the thing with solution architects is they typically provide the solutions of a single vendor. So a solution architect might work at a Cisco. They might work at an AWS. They might work at a Google or an Azure. It doesn't matter. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be designers of a solution that will use those things. So if a solution architect works at AWS, they're going to give you an end-to-end design using AWS solutions. And if they work for GCP, one of their solution architects, as a rule, is going to give you an end-to-end design of one of the solutions on their cloud. That's what a solution architect does. They are a designer, they are an architect of a single organization's specific solutions. Now, it may include other applications as well, but typically speaking, the solution architect roles are single vendor. And deeply technical? Well, not that technical, but they're still pretty technical with regards to the depth of knowledge and the services of the single vendor, but less technical in the knowledge of the entire business process, less technical in some of the business acumen that you might see, which is going to become more critically important in other roles. And maybe they don't know necessarily as much about the network, the data center, and the other cloud providers because they're focusing on a single cloud provider, and that's a solution architect. But the solution architect will have a lot of depth of knowledge of the single vendors they're working on, far deeper than anyone else, because that's their role. Now, this is moving up the business chain. Now, as we move further up the business chain, where we're going to have more business, more architecture, more overall knowledge of how things work, we're going to have less depth of knowledge in the single vendor solution, but more knowledge in terms of how do we design this end-to-end global system design. So the next role is the cloud architect. Now, the cloud architect is a heavy design role. A person in this position is going to start with the executives, maybe the CEO, CIO, CTO, CFO, work with the VPs, the directors of IPs, the managers, the engineers, and the architects. They're going to ask a lot of questions. They're going to then do an assessment. They're going to look around at applications, and they're going to design a solution, an end-to-end solution, a global solution for the business that's going to solve all the business's challenges, or at least as many as it can, through the use of technology. And it might be multi-cloud solutions where you're using multi-cloud providers. It could be keeping everything in the data center. It could be doing something like running a Nutanix or an OpenStack cloud in the data center and then connecting it to a public cloud provider like AWS or GCP, for example. The cloud architect knows how to do it all. And it's a bigger business position, so it's going to be much higher on the strategy focus for business, and it's going to be a little less deep on the individual services of a cloud provider, because the cloud architect needs to know everything all around for the global enterprise solution. So now you know that's the main difference between that and a solution architect. But as we're moving into the cloud architect roles, emotional intelligence, executive presence, knowing how to speak differently to the CEO, the CIO, the CFO, the CTOs, the COO, as well as the hiring managers, as well as the directors, as well as all their direct reports. In this role, it's critical because you're going to be a translator between business executives, engineers, and vice versa. And it's a fantastic role with an incredible career potential, because a cloud architect could always work as a solution architect, but a solution architect is going to need a lot more training to work as a cloud architect, because they're going to need much more business acumen, soft skills, emotional intelligence, and more overall system design. Now, the next type of architect we're going to talk about is the enterprise architect. Now, the enterprise architect and the cloud architect, boy, these roles are getting really confused right now, and that's why we're going to talk about them. As a rule, and I've worked as an enterprise architect, the enterprise architect typically works on designing technology solutions to improve the customer's business. Sounds a lot like a cloud architect. In a lot of ways it is. But the enterprise architect's focus is going to be a little bigger than just the infrastructure. They're going to be looking at the applications, they're going to be looking at the infrastructure, they're going to be looking at the security, they're going to be looking at business needs, they're going to be looking for competitive business advantage. And then they're going to work with the teams to try and build something that'll do that. So again, the enterprise architect is a system designer, but they're going to be more focused on business, more focused on business strategy. So you can almost look at it as this diagonal curve. And if you look at the curve, you've got the cloud engineer that's the most deeply technical on the services, the solution architect that is less technical but more business oriented on the curve, but still has a lot of knowledge of a single vendor services. The cloud architect is someone that knows all about the cloud and all overall system designs, but a lot more business. And then the enterprise architect, which is going to include less technology depth, but a whole lot more understanding of the business and how the technology can improve the business. So I hope we've answered your question on the difference between what is a solution architect versus a cloud architect, what is a cloud engineer versus a cloud architect, what is an enterprise architect versus a cloud architect. So we hope you understand this, because when you understand exactly the differences, you know how to study and you can build the cloud computing career of your dreams. Please let me tell you about some free things we do for the cloud architect community. On every Monday and every Thursday, we have an absolutely free How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job. If you come to one of these free webinars, we will tell you everything that's necessary to get your first job, what should be on your resume, how to prepare, things that are important to hiring managers so you can get hired. It's completely free. We do it on Mondays and Thursdays. I'll leave a link in the description below. Now, every Tuesday, we have a fun Cloud Architect Experience webinar. And on this webinar, we talk about how you build the technical depth and competency to be capable to do your first cloud architect.